All right, so next up is Appalachian Pagan Ministries, Darvalvan, and get her.
Hi,
Hello, Donna. You.
how are you?
Oh, having a great time missing in the wood, being out in the sun. But other than that, it's been a great day today. So tell us in case people don't know and are
Gonna
first discovering, because we got listeners now all across the country.
gonna give you
Tell us what Pagan Ministries is and
I
what they
will.
do.
Gonna give you a little spiel here. So, hi, my name is Donna Donovan, and I'm the founder of Appalachian Pagan Ministry. We are a pan-pagan ministry devoted to building an engaged, passionate, and spiritually fulfilled community of people from all backgrounds and faiths. We are devoted to engaging and impacting one another and others, believing it is our responsibility to set an example of service. This is where we come to walk our talk and educate by example. It is the desire of this ministry to show that pagans of all beliefs and faiths can work together to serve the greater community. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Young, one of my favorites. Appalachian Pagan Ministry was founded in April of 2015 at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. We were working on site monthly with pagan who were incarcerated in 23 facilities, including death row in 3 states: West Virginia, Arizona, and Ohio. Appalachian Pagan Ministry goes in monthly and holds moots with the heathen inmates, services with the Wiccan and general pagan inmates, services with the Satanist and Luciferian inmates, as well as offering several correspondence courses to kindreds and covens and facilities around the nation. We also facilitate various rituals on site for the facilities that we serve in. We hold memorials for those inmates who have passed and help with resources and such upon release. The courses we offer, due to the recent current events, are now a bit limited. We now offer study of the heathen paths, like Satru, Odinism, ancestral ways, etc., Wicca, Celtic paganism, and then Satanist and Luciferianism. The request for our presence is growing. According to the Pew Research Center's Forum on Religious and Public Life, pagan/earth-based, Native American, and other non-Abrahamic religions are growing in our prisons nationally at a combined rate of 71%. Study after study is showing the effectiveness of spiritual and religious programming in prisons on the reduction of recidivism rates. It is our goal to continue and grow a pagan prison ministry that will be able to address the spiritual needs of all pagans that are currently incarcerated. There are other programs we as ministry get involved with. However, our main focus at this time is the prison ministry and our work in the reentry and recovery community. And I'll be happy to offer resources afterwards to anybody wishing to discuss recovery. I myself was once incarcerated by the state of West Virginia, then went on to work for that same state that incarcerated me in a psych facility on the forensic unit. During my own incarceration, there was no Okay, I just lost my place, and I'm horrible about this because I'm trying to read and not look like I'm reading. During my own incarceration, there was no facilitation of my personal spiritual path. It is my strong belief that everyone has that right. Per the RLUIPA, the federal government also agrees. In addition, it is a huge forward step for pagans to be recognized by a government body, which would be diminished if no one actually came forward and fulfilled this role. It can be uncomfortable and tiring at times. It takes up your time, but it's also a rewarding and humbling experience. It certainly makes you appreciate the small things that we take for granted. We have our freedom to read the books we wish to, buy any paraphernalia or anything clothing we wish to, and can afford both in person and through the internet. We are able to connect directly with nature, if only with a window box or walk in a city park. These small freedoms become appreciated and viewed very differently when the effects of the denial of this is seen firsthand. Paganism practiced as a nature religion is probably the most difficult path to follow while imprisoned. Often prisoners discover or rediscover their pagan spirituality while imprisoned, and it is important to them that they are able to express this and receive support and assistance in following their chosen path. You often hear the phrase, someone found Jesus in jail. Well, it's no different for other spiritual paths. If an adult incarcerated is of a mainstream faith, spiritual support systems are in place, as stated above. Paganism is a recognized religion. So why is it happening that in some cases, many cases actually, pagans are denied the same access to services? Ministry in prisons can pose challenges that many are not used to. We must deal with the demands of high security, limited resource options, and an audience overwhelmingly made up of those whose minds and bodies bear the scars of long years of drug and alcohol abuse. You face men and women of every background, people who have committed every conceivable crime and others which are inconceivable. These are people who have made a string of poor choices and have seen the worst of life. For many, they have hit rock bottom and they don't have any expectation of anything better. For them, this truly is the end and there is no hope. The problem is that there are too few willing to come inside to accommodate the needs of these people. Many adults incarcerated have long sentences and and some have committed unpleasant crimes, often addiction related, and having been judged by society are often also alienated from family and friends. It is not our place as ministers to go in and judge them a second time, but to support and ensure their rights to practice their religion is protected. The positive effects on these folks themselves of being able to discuss their path with another person is important. So, what are the misconceptions that the general pagan community has in regards to pagan inmates? The first one is that it's a quote, a waste of time. These inmates are dishonorable, or even the bigger one, this doesn't affect me. Well, it does affect you. 95% of those incarcerated will be released. Think about that. 95% of people who are incarcerated now will be coming home to your neighborhoods, to your stores, to your drum circles, to your festivals. You know, they will be in your community, at your festivals, drum circles, your jobs, etc. It behooves us to help these folks come out of prison better than when they went in. Are they dishonorable? Well, when they committed their crimes, if they are guilty, the majority of them definitely were, and they will tell you that. However, many come to their chosen paths during their time of incarceration. You've heard the phrase, again, like I said before, you found Jesus. Incarceration affects you really easy. Like I said, 95 incarcerated are coming home. They will be released into your community, your festivals, your drum circles, your jobs. It behooves us to help these folks come out of prison better than when they went in. Are they dishonorable? Well, when they committed their crimes, if they are guilty, the majority definitely were, and they will tell you that. However, many come to their chosen paths during their time of incarceration. Like I said before, you've heard the phrase, they found Jesus in jail. It's no different from those of pagan paths. They have now made a conscious decision to live their lives in the practice of their faith honorably. I have learned more about myself and my own personal beliefs from doing this work. I have seen despair, humility, joy, compassion all in the same day in a way that I cannot explain. My son passed away in 2015 of, as many do know, because my work in recovery, of an opioid overdose. On Mother's Day, the year following, I received several messages from those inside expressing their concern and giving me inspirational messages. And I get those every Mother's Day, and I get those on his birthday, and I get those on the day of his anniversary of his death. These folks remember those dates even more so than people in my outside day-to-day life do. I have now seen firsthand the injustice of our legal system, the discrimination towards those of non-Abrahamic paths, and the inner strength of those enduring this and fighting to make it better for those who come later. People ask all the time, what can they do to get involved and how we can help? And I say it all the time, funding, funding, funding. I spam most of you online on Facebook constantly, I'm sure. Cannot express this enough. Many groups that do what we do it entirely out of pocket. The costs add up quickly, from fuel, hotel rooms, food to printing costs, postage, paper, ink. You can donate materials, books especially, heathen books even more so, poetic and prose edits, volunteer your time. I understand that going behind the walls is not for everyone, but if you can, then do. We have a page on our website, which I'm sure Asen will put up here in a little bit, that explains what you can do, called What You Can Do to Help. Incarceration is a dehumanizing experience. It is designed to be that way. Keeping that connection with the community by volunteers coming in is crucial in keeping the humanity. When a person is locked away like an animal and treated as such, why is anyone surprised they come out acting any differently? If they are given the opportunity to learn from what they did, grow in body, mind, and spirit, and have a connection to the community they will be released back into, they are less inclined to reoffend. Let's talk a little about why prison ministry is important. Every year, approximately 700,000 men and women are released from U.S. prisons. That is the equivalent of about 2,000 ex-prisoners a day returning to the communities across the country. There are over 3,000 local jails in the United States that process approximately 12 million releases per year. On any given day, an estimated 2.7 million children in America have at least one parent in prison or jail. Despite the recent limited declines, our jail and prison populations are 4 times larger now than they were in 1980. 113 million adults in America have had an immediate family member incarcerated, and right now 6.5 million adults have an immediate family member currently incarcerated in jail or prison. People housed in jails and prisons receive minimal support, and the people around them are mostly committed to confining and punishing them. They deal with racial polarization, economic disparity, and poverty, terror and violence, drug and alcohol abuse, personal and family brokenness, isolation and loneliness, anger and meaningless, and guilt. Behind the walls of every prison and jail are fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, husbands and wives, friends and neighbors, but they are not just numbers in the statistics that I give. Research suggests that outside volunteers, especially faith-based people, can be an indispensable catalyst of positive transformation in the attitudes, behavior, and rates of successful reentry of prisoners. The ex-offender faces so many barriers to successful reentry: stigma, employer reticence, ineligibility for many professions, housing. It is offered so few resources that faith-based and other community organizations are often their only hope. And the majority of the organizations out there now that are faith-based in recovery and reentry are all Christian-based or they're Abrahamic religions. So why should you care? Let me give you a few definitions. The definition of recidivism: a tendency to relapse into a previous condition or mode of behavior, especially relapse into criminal behavior. The term is frequently used in conjunction with the criminal behavior and substance abuse. Recidivism is a synonym for relapse, which is more commonly used in medicine or addiction. Offender reentry or transition. Reentry refers to the transition of offenders from prison or jails back into the community. And according to the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs, more than 650,000 people are released from state and federal prisons every year. Recidivism is a problem. It's a big problem. The fact is, most prisoners will fail unless they are provided with meaningful educational, vocational, spiritual, and rehabilitative programming. This isn't a surprise, considering that an internal revision needs to take place for a person to change their ways. This is true regardless of whether the person has a damaged character or not. So we must strive to find ways to implement such meaningful and transformational programming. Recidivism on the surface doesn't seem like a crippling issue. An inmate leaves prison, returns to crime, returns to prison. Big deal. Seems pretty offender-centric. But there are many, many hidden costs and parties which need to be considered. After all, the American people's concern isn't the higher quality of life for wrongdoers, but reduced victimization and the plethora of costs associated with it: policing, criminal justice, and other costs. We're a very materialistic society. We don't really care about the individual. We're just caring about the money. So I'll let you know how that affects you too. Recidivism affects several distinct entities. You got the crime victims. Perhaps the most unfortunate group to be affected by crime are the innocent victims of it. Prison education enters the equation after the instance, or first. Victim of crime has already been impacted. One of the major goals of prison education and rehabilitation is to stop future crimes and thus future victimizations. Every time a prisoner is released from custody and reoffends, this results in the creation of yet another victim. We must never forget that we aren't only fighting for better, crime-free lives for those we serve, but also for one less victim too. The economy. Recidivism is crippling to our state and national economies. In nearly every state, the cost of state prisons has grown substantially in the past decade. 2007 alone, Massachusetts spent over $500 million on its prison system. Total spending on corrections nationwide exceeds $60 billion per year. These are huge, crippling amounts of tax dollars being spent on a system which fails most of the time. Governor DeWine in Ohio cut the budget for every program in our state except for the prisons due to COVID. Kind of interesting how that works. With each new recidivist, a new victim of crime is created, yet more tax dollars must go to reincarceration, and more funds are siphoned off from essential early education programs and social services, both of which help to stop the initial crime in the first place. As I stated before, prison education strives to stop this continuing and often intergenerational cycle of crime. When funds are spent on creating and sustaining such prison education programs or rehabilitation programs or community-based programs, the savings because of slashed recidivism rates more than pay for the programs, to say nothing of monies garnered when educated ex-prisoners are working, paying taxes, contributing financially to their communities by engaging in commerce. Recidivism is a plague among American society. It crushes the lives of prisoners and their families. It burdens the American taxpayers. It creates harmful and hostile prison environments, which then harm those subjected to such systems of correction. And it creates new victims of crime as each new ex-prisoner becomes a recidivist. Recidivism is a problem in the highest magnitude. Each year, we as a nation spend, like I said, $60 billion on our prison system, a limited portion of what is used for first-time offenders. This is money drained away from all our early education initiatives, state universities, and other essential social services. And even though a person might not have been a victim of a crime or a criminal, if they live in America, they have been impacted by the atrocious rate of recidivism in the United States. The effects of recidivism on our society are also alarming. The first issue for our society is associated with repeat offending. Reoffending results in more crimes in our communities and puts all of us at risk of becoming a victim of a crime. It also destroys families. Statistically, the divorce rate among couples where one spouse is in jail or prison for 1 year or more is 80% for men and close to 100% for women. It means that many times incarcerated fathers do not get a chance to raise their children, and the young males and females grow up requiring more guidance and direction. This absence of a male role model results in increased chance of children resorting to criminal behaviors themselves. According to statistics from fathermag.com, the cities that cites a report from the Center for Disease Control, approximately 85% of all children that exhibit behavioral disorders come from fatherless or homes. They have no because they're locked up. Furthermore, 85% of all youth sitting in prisons came from fatherless homes. Recidivism is also responsible for economic issues that communities nationwide experience. Crimes lead to decreased values of homes in affected neighborhoods and billions of dollars spent on corrections that could be used in other areas where it's needed the most. Let's look at how prison recidivism impacts our society and why there's this enormous disparity between rehabilitation and incarceration rates. Prisons are constantly being constructed and are filled. Prisons simply do not eliminate crime and criminal behavior. What causes the problem of recidivism within the criminal justice system, and how does prison reform prepare individuals to return to society? That's the question. Many males are incarcerated at a higher rate, mainly due to a lack of male presence in their home or anything else. There's not as many women, but that number is definitely growing. West Virginia, by the way, has, and as far as a ratio, they have more women in their prison per capita. They are in the top 5 in the world in incarceration rates for women, which is pretty astounding. So who's affected? the immediate families. When fathers and mothers get arrested based on the nature of the crime, the families become ostracized by the community and the media based on a rush to judgment. Other children that attend the same schools ridicule our children. Many children suffer numerous negative reactions, including anger, depression, low self esteem, and decline in school performance. Another factor contributing to this problem are communities without alternative programming for at risk youth. Some programs previously available to inner city children were recreation centers, summer league tournaments, and Boy Scouts. These programs allow children to participate in positive environments, provide mentoring and modeling of positive behaviors. Based on the unavailability of positive role models, there are a society of young men and women who are incarcerated at an alarming rate now. Pregnancy, and particularly with younger women, and drug abuse, along with domestic violence, are on the rise. Positive role models are needed in both the leaders and in the communities to break the cycle. Alternatives and solutions that are realistic must be put into action, and a vision with a plan must be mapped out. All that costs money, money that we're spending building more prisons. Our criminal justice system has done nothing but increase taxes to send individuals through a revolving door. The system has remained on the same path for hundreds of years under the retributive justice concept. Individuals break the law by committing a legal act or exhibiting deviant behavior, and those that are caught or reported to the court in some form end up finding themselves at the doorstep to Lady Justice. If we consider the cost of the quote deviant behavior, we can begin to understand just how important it is to identify an alternative way of reducing recidivism. If we elect to continue with the status quo, our society will continue down a path of self destruction. Not only does society end up paying the cost of sending individuals through the system, the result is even less than satisfying. People are alleged to have committed a crime, are sent through a legal system that is full of fluff, and then either placed on some form of supervision or incarcerated for their criminal acts. The retributive society would have us believe this concept works, and that all the people must be held responsible for their actions. While people certainly do need to be held responsible, there are much better ways at ensuring proper sanctions are provided. Not only do individuals need to be held responsible, we need to be held accountable for what happens to those individuals once they have paid their debt to society. And that's a lot of what we at APM do. We don't stop working when we're inside with these folks. We work with reentry communities. We are on the Athens County Reentry Task Force here in Athens, Ohio. We are part of the Ohio Reentry Commission. We are working with those goals in mind to help them when they come out as well. Keeping the connection with the outside community and bringing the humanity back in these people's lives is a crucial element in reducing recidivism. Helping them take that time inside to grow in body, mind, and spirit is what they want and need. Here's some more numbers that are kind of very disconcerting. An estimated 80,000 to 100,000 inmates in America spend about 23 hours a day alone in an 80 square foot cell known as officially as administrative seg, or colloquially as the box. And Supermax in Ohio is actually the size of a parking space that has a bed, a toilet, a sink, and a shelf in there. And that's where they spend 23 hours a day. For many prisoners, this isolation is not a matter of hours or days, rather months and years. I have folks up there who have been in ADSEG for over 25 and 30 years at Supermax in Ohio. That's at Ohio State Penitentiary. This extended isolation has detrimental effects on folks. University of California, Santa Cruz professor Craig Haney found that extended solitary confinement caused hypertension, uncontrollable anger, hallucinations, emotional breakdowns, chronic depressions, and suicidal thoughts and behavior in prisoners. Another study found that 4 years in solitary confinement caused a notable decrease in EEG electrical activity in the brain based on the EEG, which is indicative of sensory deprivation. Research done by Stuart Rossian, a former faculty member at Harvard Medical School, confirmed that, quote, even a few days in solitary confinement will predictably shift the EEG pattern toward an abnormal pattern characteristic of stupor and delirium. The inadequate environmental stimulation in solitary can lead to the permanent harm of a continued intolerance of social interaction that prevents an inmate from ever reintegrating into a larger prison population and then back into society. This was written to us by a gentleman we work with inside. Donna, most do not understand, and you need to explain to them that the majority of us come to this path after incarceration, after we have committed the crime that, yes, we were not honorable and not living right as we were not on that path then. Once we were and have been taught and understood that is the time people should look at, because at that point, many of us took our oaths to our gods, our ancestors, and our folk, and that is when we understood what honor was. That is when we lived our lives in ways that are right. Because let's face it, you are not putting your family first when you're out doing drugs and robbing people. We did not have that value system in our lives when we came here. They need to understand that. We deserve a chance to show that we do now. As we approach the end of month 6 of this epidemic, the need for the work APM does in the prisons has exploded. How we do so has changed dramatically, being that we have not been inside the prisons physically, aside for the federal execution last month, in 6 months. It is just as relevant, if not more so. While we are not able to provide on site services, we do provide study materials via all forms of mail, electronic, snail mail, DVDs, etc. Religious directors in 7 states are now sharing our material inside the walls. We have a mailing list that receives material via snail mail weekly across the nation. We have JPay, core links, access corrections, telnet, etc. are all the electronic services we use to send out material and respond to those inside. Just over 5 years ago, Appalachian Pagan Ministry was launched, which started out with 2 women visiting one prison in West Virginia, has turned into a multi-state operation on the ground and a national operation via correspondence. We have 6 volunteers in 4 states going behind the walls monthly, and several others offering courses via correspondence. Through my work in the recovery community and with those currently or formerly incarcerated, I've had the honor of working with some amazing family members as well. These are folks who have watched their loved ones battle addictions, and many have lost loved ones to it. Folks have stood by their loved ones, even when society condemned them to incarceration and even death. And I have learned so much about the human capacity for love through them. They have stood up to society's condemnation of them for supporting their loved ones. They continue to get up each day and taking what little bit they have to hang on to and keep showing their loved ones that they are not forgotten. A dear friend once told me that each new day was a gift. I make a point these days to get up and watch the sunrise. I know we talked about sunrise racing the other day, but I watch it every morning because some days we wish to have just pretty bows and shiny paper, but each new day is a gift all the same. And that's why I watch those sunrises, to remind myself of that. And today I start my gratitude list with all of you who have supported APM and encouraged each of us to keep going. Thank you.
All right, I'm back because I got a big mouth.
Got questions now. I'm ready.
We do have some time for some questions, but I also want you to give us some tips because I have run Federal Bureau of Prisons, even West Virginia's Pagan community. I ran it for 3 years, and I couldn't keep it up physically. Because those boys will work you.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you, if I ever need bodyguards, I want all 13 of my guys brought out because they will protect you.
You better believe it. I'm safer behind those walls than I'm ever at Walmart.
Exactly. So here's my question, and this is kind of where AP is kind of moving kind of with, but we need some more guidance on and some tips about reentry. How do we volunteer? What's that process like?
I will tell you, I am very, very blessed, and I will put out there, I work, APM is a member of the Athens County Reentry Task Force here in Athens, Ohio, and we have got an amazing reentry director, Sean Stover, who's just like the bomb diggity. Athens leads the way in all of Ohio for reentry, because he works so hard. You've got to get. So we had these meetings, and we have our reentry task force. We get people from all different areas, be it recovery, people with jobs. People need. There's nothing like that in West Virginia, and there really needs to be. There's not enough. We don't have enough. All the reentry houses are called halfway houses or even recovery houses. The majority in the state of West Virginia are faith-based, and they're not pagan faith-based, at all. So we need, I considered it at one time. I have a hard time saying no to things. That's not something I can do right now, but we need pagan-based reentry houses or sober living houses, people who are even just reentry halfway houses. We need places for these guys to come out to that aren't going to have to sit there, and no offense to any Christians watching, to have, all that shoved down their throat 24/7, where they can be able to practice their faith and feel comfortable about it. That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
It's huge because they learn these things inside and they practice these things inside. Then they get out and they're so isolated from everybody.
And what about, is there extra things that us as pagan ministers that hold public circles, that run rituals, that can help with in reentry? Is there things that we can do with when we know they're fresh reentry that can stop this revolving door a little bit?
Actually reaching out more. I don't know how to go about right now, but reaching out to those coming out, if they're coming out, reach the chaplains in the area and say, look, if you've got somebody of a pagan faith coming out into reentry or coming out soon, give them our info to reach us.
Mm-hmm.
So they can reach out to the community, because most of them have no clue where to go. They have no clue what even to look at. It depends how long they've been in.
Right.
It really does. They have no idea where to start. I made a conscious effort to reach out and to keep in touch. But it's hard.
Right.
And
how do we as a community support them? But also, how do we deal with the ones, and I'm going to call them what I see them as history buff attackers? They go, oh, but this one done this and this one done that. Where do you give us some advice on this?
Are we talking about from those themselves coming out, or from people outside?
People outside going in.
Oh, really easy? Well, real simple. Every single person I know, everybody, there's not a single person walking that hasn't been one step away from being in those walls. Not one. West Virginia alone has the most horrible justice system. I can actually go down right now. I can go across to Parkersburg, go down to the sheriff's department and say, that ace and knight, he slapped me in the face, press an assault charge against you. You'll have a warrant out. They'll arrest your happy butt. You got to pay a bail to get out and then prove that you were 3 states away and be dismissed. But you know what? You don't get your bail money back. You know that?
I don't know.
That's how West Virginia works.
That bail money.
I know. That's how West Virginia works. So anybody can be there. I when I was incarcerated, and I love that. So I said, well, they were inmates, they were convicts. Really, so was I. But you like me. When they talk about drug addicts, oh, dope dealers, this and those, shoot you dope and dope there. Well, my son was. Y'all liked him. Oh, but we know you. Oh, that's okay then, because you know us. No, everybody is one step away.
Exactly. And it's one step away from changing. It's one step away from reaching recovery. It's one step away from and it's got to be as simple as pick up the phone and call.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just, and so reach out. And if you see somebody coming to your gathering that may look kind of scary, a lot of them have, don't judge. You don't know. You do not know what people have to go through to survive in those walls.
Mm-hmm.
Until you know their story, don't judge. I had one who came out, was coming out to a festival and wanted to hide up all his tattoos because they were not very nice ones. Mm-hmm. And I said, don't. That's your story. That's who you were. It's not who you are now. And if somebody's too scared to ask you, they're lost.
Right. Well, I've got one of my boys from the BOP days. He's now back in. He's back out. He's in somewhere in the Latin Americas. He can't leave his house without a shirt that goes down to here.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's halfway past his hands, or he'll be killed because of the tats.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing bad. It's something we in America wear all the time. It's a lovely little pinnacle.
Yep.
Beautiful artwork pinnacle all the way down his arm. Can't even leave his house.
No, you just the outside community needs to educate themselves more so on those that are incarcerated. We need to work with our legislatures in changing the way we incarcerate. And I'm not going to get on here and do a whole prison abolition thing because I'm not sure. I'm still looking at how that, but I do believe that we incarcerate. It's a big business. It's one of the biggest businesses in our country. Right. We used to be rehabilitative. Then we got punitive with Ronald Reagan and the war on drugs, and we became big prison system. It is a big money-making system. There are only 3 private prisons in all of Ohio, but they are run like private prisons because of the companies that make money off them. Aramark, who does the food for almost all of them, including West Virginia. Globaltel, JPay, the phone systems. I mean, they make big money off prisons.
Right. But the other thing of this is, some people don't have money
Nope.
to donate. Some people don't have time to donate, to go in for 4 hours on every Thursday or whatever. Guys, you would not believe the effects of just getting a letter from someone that speaks your language has on these guys.
I will tell you, we personally, our ministry does not do pen pals because we can't, because we go inside and we can't have one-on-one contact like that. However, there are plenty out there, but they're also, material. I'm telling you, you got to go through your books. We will take books, all the books you want, because they have no access to internet, really, unless you're federal, and even they don't have it anymore right now because they're all locked down. But books, tons of books. We need books.
I was so surprised about the process they have to go through to get a book.
Yes. Okay.
When
you give it to us, we can take it in.
Well, no, when I was teaching BOP, which is Bureau of Federal Prisons, right. I was teaching off of To Ride a Silver Broomstick. It's one of the easiest books I thought to get. This is what the boys had to go through to get this one book, one copy. They had to write the chaplain. They had to request it from the warden. Then they had to snail mail a letter to Wildflowers to get the book. The book had to be sent to the warden. The warden had to read the book before he would even let it go through.
Yep. It's amazing. They change, like they can order some, you understand, they can order some from Amazon or this or that, but you have to look at too with the prisons inside, especially when it comes to those of non-Abrahamic paths. Okay. And I say non-Abrahamic because the Christians, Muslims, and Jews all get pretty much free reign. Anybody who's and Native American more so, not as much, but our guys, the Wiccans, and I work with the heathens mostly, the Odinist and Satri guys. They spend majority of their time locked in seg or in gang units, so they can't get jobs and they can't work and they can't make their own money to buy anything, because they're out of the norm. Even my Satanists and Luciferians, I mean, they think they're out there cursed. I don't know what they think they're doing, but so they spend most of their time in seg, so they can't make any money. So, and then most of them have, no outside help at all. And, so book donations to us, we can get them inside because I'll get them to the chaplains directly and they put them in the chaplain library. But if you're a publisher or an author and you have a ton of books that are brand new that you want to send directly, I can take them, get you where they need to go, and you can send them, they can pass them out. We'll take that too. There's all kinds of creative ways to get stuff in there if we need to. As far as us, our website, there's a whole thing on how to, I think it's how you can help page on our website, which I think you have.
Right, and it's out. It's been sent out on the links because we
have it, and on there you can find links to our Twitter page, our Facebook page, our new YouTube channel, which isn't new. I just started putting things on there. We are doing what I'm showing on their videos are the videos that we're actually sending inside. We're making DVDs now that go inside the prisons that they're showing on their inter-prison TVs. We've got one for Wiccans. We did our stuff at our heathen classes that we did. I have a study group of ladies that I work with that we do discussions, a couple of heathen women that we do discussions with, and we do those videos. So, and if you're anybody that wants to donate a video that you've made, if you're a Wiccan or a meditate, whatever you want to, and you don't mind me tagging our name at the end of it and putting on a DVD and send in the prisons, please send me your MP4s. I'll be glad to do that. All the stuff they can watch.
Up.
Huh?
Me and you need to get some time to sit down and get up.
We do.
Yeah, because we don't get to see each other enough.
I know.
I've got resources. I'm like, here, Hey,
Right?
but it's getting to you.
Well, here's the thing. We have, because of COVID, and that's the thing, we were working at one point. We were like 3 days a week, 2.5 weeks out of the month on the road going to all these prisons. So that was a lot. But since this COVID started and we haven't gone to prisons, our work has like quadrupled. I mean, I just got a letter last week from the religious director of all the prisons in the state of New Hampshire that wants our material in every prison in New Hampshire. So now I've got to burn all these DVDs and send there. We've got 7 states we're doing that with. So it has grown in our information's on a prison resource list. So we're getting mail from people that are incarcerated around the nation of every path. It's insane.
Right.
I need minions. I need a lot of minions. And we need money. We need lots of money because I have a little printer.
The minions we have. This is West Virginia, honey. We got people in this community that can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. But can you please send me a message, not in our group chats, and let's sit down and have a talk?
Absolutely. We need to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Donna. You have a great day. And
thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, hon. How do I get out of here and click me off?
I'll take care of you. All right.